stuck on a life raft in the ocean. But it's an aggressively bad film. It is not good in many ways. I did not enjoy Great White, and we will never cover it on this podcast. No, thank you.
So I have to ask you something, Jay. Obviously, you are very interested in shark movies, whether they be good or bad.
I prefer the good ones.
Yeah, oh, obviously. But you are also interested. I noticed that you really enjoy disaster movies. Like
yes, I've always liked disaster films. Yes.
Yes. And is there something about what is it that you find fun? And I think that this movie is a perfect combination of the two. I mean, we have, in the beginning of the movie, there's a great disaster. Children die, basically. We don't see them die, but we know that they died. What is it about? Because there's like normal people in air quotes who would be like, well, I can't watch this. This is just ridiculous. I can't watch all these people die. It's just too horrific. What is it that you put aside that you find thrilling about that?
Well, I think most other people have like a compassion for other people, but I think one of my favorite subgenres is having a small group of people stuck in a location getting picked off one by one by some unseen or some various force. So films like disaster movies like Poseidon Adventure, perfect. They're trapped, they're trying to get out one by one. They don't all make it. Quite a few people do make it, but they are dispatched in numerous and entertaining ways along the way. Deep Blue Sea, another perfect example. I don't know what it is about them, but I just like the aspect they got to work together. You tend to the arsehole characters tend to get killed, which just rarely happens in real life. It's that kind of that fantasy world of the people who are like the heroes survive and work together and it all works out fine. I don't know if that's got something to do with it, but I enjoy an entertaining death. The Final Destination franchise is my favorite horror franchise. I've never been scared by any of it, but I love the inventive deaths they come up with on those things.
This is true. This is absolutely true. Yeah.
I don't know exactly why, but it's just I like them. I've never really dug into that psychologically.
But you aren't interested in things like Friday the 13th, which has a variety of cool and gruesome deaths that.
Well, I saw the first one and didn't like it. I just haven't delved further into that. Another issue is I don't watch a lot of horror films because I live with somebody who isn't a fan of horror movies, and we only have one TV. So films like Bait are kind of horror adjacent. There's nothing terribly scary. There's a few jump scares, but that's about it. You can easily dismiss most of what happens here as not being horror. Less so with the Halloween or Friday the 13th. I watched all the Nightmare on Elm Street films a long time ago, so I've seen all of those. There's some you want entertaining and unique deaths in Nightmare on Elm Street. Bloody hell! We're going to turn it into a video game. We're going to turn you into a puppet with your tendons. Okay, this is different. Not seen this before.
Or comic book character.
Yes, now you're a cockroach. So yeah, those are fun. I like those kinds of things. The imagination, the creativity of it.
Yeah. I'm on board with you. I think you answered the question exactly the same. Like, you don't know who's going to live, who's going to die, how they're going to die. And I think that we're in agreement that more people should have died in this movie, even though that sounds horribly inhumane.
It's not real.
Yeah, it should be pointed out that I believe, as far as I know, all the actors in this movie are alive in real life, or they were at least
at the time of filming.
At the time that this movie was released.
I have not checked all of them now. But amongst the cast, I did recognise Shani Vincent, who plays Tina. She's the lead from You're Next.
Oh, really?
Which
wow.
is a great film. Anyone out there who hasn't seen You're Next? She's Erin in that. I didn't really pick up on anyone else being familiar. I've not checked. Yeah, but Your Next is exactly that. It's watching people die in inventive ways. It's horrible people dying wonderfully. That and Ready or Not is a similar ilk.
I was just going to say that. Oh, man, you beat me to it. I love Ready or Not. I love Samara Weaving. I loved her in The Babysitter and the sequel to The Babysitter, Babysitter Killer Queen. Those are great movies.
I haven't seen those yet.
Oh, they're just great. It's They're wonderful. I would totally recommend that. It's on Netflix.
I'll add them to my list. Yeah. But yeah, like the ending of Ready or Not, chef's kiss. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Glorious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of deaths, there's a unknown person in this who during the flood gets a propeller blade to the face.
Oh yeah, I
real
know.
quick moment.
Wasn't that cool? Yes, it's just some lady. It's just out of nowhere, and it's like a second. Yeah. And it's like, that's so cool. I love it. And then they have some gratuitous shots of dead bodies floating in the water of people that you don't even know who they are. And it's like, oh, isn't it sad?
With just fish swimming around there like a jellyfish bobbing along.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like murder at the aquarium kind of thing. Which, yeah, it's great.
Another thing that this movie plays on, and, you know, this goes back to Jaws and movies like The Deep, which I haven't seen all the way through. Another Peter Benchley book.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, I think that might be pre-Jaws. I don't know. I think it was after Jaws, but they have some sharks, but it's mostly about this couple looking for sunken treasure.
Oh, okay.
But I hate the water. Okay, I am Sheriff Brody in Jaws. Okay, I'm not from New York. But, you know, there's something about deep water where you can't see what's underneath it. It's like outer space or something. We recently went on a where did we go? Oh, Hawaii. And we went on a snorkeling trip. And the boat stopped, and then you had to swim from where the boat was to where the reef was, the coral reef, which isn't that impressive anymore. And I asked the person in charge, I said, okay, so right here where we're getting off the boat, how deep is the water? And she said,
no one's ever found out.
Yeah. She said, oh, it's about 40 feet. And there is a little voice in my mind that was like, no, not doing this. No. But I did it anyway. I swam to the coral reef. And I spent about 3 minutes. I'm like, okay, I've seen this before. I got to get back to the boat. And so I'm swimming back to the boat, knowing that I'm in 40 feet of water, and I was effing terrified. I was swimming so hard and having a panic attack, and just positive either something was behind me or something was underneath me that was watching me, and it was going to come and get me. I just am terrified of deep water, and I don't get people who go down in the deep water. You don't know what's in there. You can't see around you. And people do get killed by sharks in Hawaii. I did that research afterwards to find out if my fear was, you know, true or not. But yeah, people have gotten killed by sharks in Hawaii. So there is a little bit of this movie that plays on that. Not as much as something like Jaws, but and I hate bringing up Jaws because that's the shark. Have you done Jaws? Did you?
I mean, we're doing films that I'm less familiar with.
Okay.
This is kind of like an education of me. It's like Mark isn't here. Mark's seen one of these films. Most of them came up over the course of us talking about Deep Blue Sea.
Okay.
So I've seen Jaws a number of times, but I haven't seen like the Jaws sequels. I haven't seen The Shallows. I have now. Last week, actually, on a similar topic, we talked about the Descent last week. It's barely Deep Blue Sea adjacent. Don't worry. But I hadn't seen it, and that's very much why are people going out in this deep water? Why are people digging around in caves?
Exactly.
What are they?
Exactly.
What are you getting out of this?
Yes, exactly. And that is a perfect example. There is a scene in The Descent where the lady gets stuck, and she can't get. You know, she just gets stuck in a very narrow. That's scarier than the parts terrifying. With the monsters. It's like no, and that's why it's like. You know, if you see a movie where people go on vacation and they're swimming in deep water, I'm like, you know, yeah, you had it coming. I don't care. You've seen all the movies. This is what happens when you go, you know, skinny dipping, you know, in a deserted island off of Australia. They're going to come and get you. That's it. That's all there is to it. And if it's not sharks swimming in water, it's going to be like hillbillies, killer hillbillies or something. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm going off on the deep end. No pun intended.
When I just looked up the Deep, actually, and the cast on the Deep is incredible. Like Robert Shaw, Nick Nolte, Jacqueline Bisset, Louis Gossett Jr., and Eli Waller. That's an incredible cast for 1977. So I need to track that down. That's been added to the list.
I've never seen it all the way through. The parts that I have seen, I was younger and I didn't have the patience for it, so I don't know. Check it out.
Well, I shall. It's not streaming anywhere, but I'll look into it. Yeah. So, do you have any other notes on Bait? Anything else we haven't talked about yet that you wanna talk about?
No, I think I'm all dried out.
Oh, actually, we didn't talk about the manager's death. We've hit all the other ones, but when he has a pretty fun one.
Oh yeah.
They decide they need to get out of the supermarket. All the exits are blocked. There's a vent, so they throw a rope up, and the manager's like, "I'm going to climb out," and so he gets into the vent, and as soon as he sticks his head up, just this swarm of little tiny crabs. Which, if you watch it, there were none there before. There's none like he's not gone up midstream. He's gone up literally just as they're getting to the vent. He's come up, so it's perfect timing. He gets terrified because there's these tiny little crabs get all over him. The vent breaks, he dangles down, and as he's dangling, he's like, "I can make it back up, I can make it back up." Shark leaps out of the water, bites him in half. Glorious.
Uh-huh. Yes, it is very good. And
That's
as
a real
soon as
deep blue sea death, I think. Where it's like a kind of protracted, numerous elements going into it, bitten in half by a shark.
Well, as soon as he volunteers to do it, I'm like, okay, well, bye, so long, R.I.P.
This isn't going to go well for you.
Yeah. But I was surprised by the crabs. I didn't remember the crabs coming up.
Yeah, that was fun. Actually, there's quite a lot of like soap opera level melodrama here as well, when they're all just hanging around, maybe a little bit too much. They're all hanging around on top of the shelving, trying to work out what to do. You get like heart to hearts, various characters. Gene McMahon just telling Josh, like, you should go back and talk to that your ex fiance, and after all this, everything's gonna feel like a long time ago. I'm like, oh, yeah. But the bit that like puzzled me was Jamie, the pickpocket. She's the daughter of the cop, where she's having a heart to heart. I think it's with Tina, saying how she thinks that the tsunami and getting trapped in the supermarket is penance because a few years ago her mum got ill, she was going to die, and Jamie couldn't deal with it, so she went travelling, and she wasn't there when her mother died. So this is all penance for that. And I'm like, how self-entitled do you need to be to think that this tidal wave that's killed like hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people?
And it's all about you,
Jamie.
It's all about you. It's all about you and your mother. Tell that to the security guard who has been dead for 2 hours or whatever. Tell that to the guy who got mangled up in the car crash in the car park.
To the bodies littered around the supermarket.
To the 2 children that we saw just moments before the tsunami that we know did not make it.
Actually, there's a shot on the back of the DVD of Josh carrying out the little girl from the supermarket.
Really?
Yeah. Which that's not in the film. After the pre-tidal wave sequence, we'd never see those kids again. So they must have filmed something where like they were. This is like after there's like rubble around him. He's bedraggled. Tina's bedraggled behind him. So like they would have been in the film somewhere and carried out. So I'm confused.
That sounds really weird because for him to carry them out of the rubble, they would have to survive and be on top of those, I don't see them literally cutting them out. That would be impossible. They would have to reshoot the whole movie. Huh. And maybe that was just for marketing purposes.
Maybe.
That's interesting. I'm glad that they weren't in there, and I'm glad that he didn't do that in the movie, because that would have been, if once you add kids to something like this, it's really hard to pull off.
Yeah, I mean, similarly to The Descent, a small child dies in the opening scene, but we're not shown it. That's a good decision to not show that. We're told the kid died, but we see the husband with copper pipe through him, and not the little girl. Good decision.
I don't remember the beginning of that movie.
Okay, well, a child dies.
Okay.
So, something I've been doing with all of these films is comparing them to Deep Blue Sea and finding any similarities that there are between the film in question and Deep Blue Sea. And this time around, it's actually a pretty long list of how Bait is like Deep Blue Sea.
I agree. They're very similar. And if I had to choose which one I liked better, I would be hard pressed.
I mean, I did 35 episodes about one of them and one episode about the other, so it's an easy decision for me. I haven't given Bait 5 stars on Letterboxd. Let's just say that.
they're in the same category. They're both very, very excellent examples of survival horror